All right. Okay, I guess we're starting. This is the 10 things to never do as a parent. And I'm not saying I haven't done any of these, but you don't want to do these. Okay, so be rude is the first one. Be rude to your children. You don't want to be rude. And of course, it's like, well, duh, we don't want to be rude. But really observe yourself and notice how often you are extremely rude to your children. I see it everywhere. Um, I think one example is a lot of times parents with 2-year-olds. They can be really disrespectful to their 2-year-old, their 2-year-old that really wants this toy, and then the other kid wants it, and then so you take the toy away from your child and then you give it to the other child, and then your child's really upset and you're like, too bad, that child wanted it. So I've seen, I don't know why this is normal for parents, but it's so normal for parents of 2-year-olds to a child wants a toy and then you don't let them have the toy and say you need to share it. So I'll just let you think about that. So yeah, being rude. We don't want to be rude to our children. Notice where you're coming from. Where's your tone of voice at? It's a good little kind of observation trick you can use to knowing, are you being rude? Would you talk to your friends the way that you talk to your children? A lot of times we have to kind of order them around a little bit more, but something to think about. So blame, blaming your kids for doing something that maybe wasn't right, or but just blame is just dumb, pretty much. You don't want to blame your kids. You don't want to send them to their room. You're bad. Send them to that whole thing. Yell. You don't want to yell at your kids either. Every once in a while we have to, because they're going to run in the street, and so you have to yell. And that's when maybe, every once in a while you have to yell. And then they actually listen. But if you're yelling, that's not okay. And it doesn't matter what you've gone through in your life, what patterns you have in your head. You need to stop. You need to stop yelling at your kids. It's not something that is healthy for your kids. It's sad. And just imagine if you were your child looking at you and how crazy you are. So what is that? We're on the fourth one. And I'm not saying I've never yelled. I'm just saying this is something we really want to avoid. These are things we want to avoid. And if you do, then afterwards, take a deep breath and talk to your kids like, hey, I really need you to listen when this is happening. And they're like, okay, I'm sorry. Usually that's what happens if you end up getting to a place where you yell. But there should not be yelling in the house and then a continual negative energy thereafter. It should be, if it's yelling, it's like, whoa, we need to come together, is how you can look at dealing with that kind of a situation. So lie. You don't want to lie to your kids. So many parents lie, and they think that that's okay, or don't tell the truth. So, what are your values? Do you want to be a liar to your kids? And do you lie to your kids? Why? What do you need to hide from them? And does it really matter? I notice so many parents hide stuff from their kids, like, oh, they're children, they shouldn't know, or whatever. And really, I believe being truthful, children are so much smarter than we think. I feel like I really have a gift in connecting with children and connecting at their level, and they really appreciate it when you tell them the truth, when you tell them what's going on, when you share how you're feeling. Yeah, it's a good thing to be truthful and to not lie. Don't lie. You're hiding things. Don't hide things. So if you feel like you have things to hide, I think that might be something that you need to look at and maybe do some journaling and how you can shift into being a more positive person so that you don't have anything to hide. So don't have anything to hide. It's not a good feeling. And children will always find out. Okay, this is not good. Hit. So we know it's not good to hit, but we still hit. I've slapped my son before, so I'm not saying I've never slapped my son. But, it's not a good thing to hit. We don't hit our kids. This is something you want to avoid in parenting. And my parents, they didn't hit, I wouldn't say they hit me, but like my mom smacked me with a wooden spoon a few times. And I remember thinking back, like, what? I'm feeling so confused. Going to my room, I have this red mark on my butt or my leg, and it's just like, what was that? And I remember the reason for it is like so confusing. So really, it just confuses children. I don't know if you remember being hit or smacked at all when you were a child, but definitely I would have really liked it if my mom sat me down and talked to me about what it is that she felt. And a lot of times children see a lot clearer than parents do too. So in a situation I remember I got smacked for, I remember just being like, wow, her perception is really weird, like, and off, that this isn't a big deal. The parents made it a big deal, and it wasn't a big deal at all. It came from their fear. I remember knowing this, being what was like 10 years old too. Like, wow, these parents are messed up, man. Um, so your kids really, their awareness is so very pure. Don't think that you know everything. Don't think you have all the answers. We really need to learn to listen to our kids because they're a lot more pure than we are. We have a lot more junk, and so yeah, hitting is is not good. Okay, so timeouts is, let's see, what are we on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is timeouts. No more timeouts. We know this in science now that it's just, it's more important. I mean, I don't even want to say it in this context that it's more important. Just timeouts are not okay. It's not okay for you to shame your children, to say what you did. You need to go sit over here and make them feel bad about themselves. I've never given my son a timeout, and he is very well behaved. Um, you don't need it. Timeouts make things worse, basically. So if I can just tell you that right now, we know in science now that it's through connecting that makes more connection. It's not in shunning that makes more connection. Children need to be led. They don't need to be shunned. So if you need a timeout, then you go take a timeout. You go sit in meditation, and maybe your child will come sit with you in silence. But definitely don't be telling your kids to go to timeout. There's even parenting experts that still say to do this, and so you can research science too. I have a great friend, Dr. Reglana Melrose, or Reggie Melrose. You can look up her videos on child brain development. So if you look up Dr. Melrose child brain development, she has some videos explaining the science of the detrimental effects of this. Okay. Let's see. So 7 is make your kids feel bad. And I know you're not meaning to make your kids feel bad, but notice how often you make your kids feel bad, and it's like, it makes me feel so much better. You're bad. Like, why would you do that? That kind of a talk, like, why would you do that kind of a talk? It's not that you won't have a talk, it's just leaving it at that. Why would you do that? And then just making them feel bad or shaming them. You want to continue that discussion, like, why would you do that? Inquire, more question, have a discussion and talk, not just make them feel bad. They're not dogs, and even in dog training, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to hit your dogs. It's not a good thing to make your dogs feel bad. It's a good thing to love and to connect. And your dogs will listen to you better, just as your children will listen to you. They'll seek your advice if you're nice. Okay, scowl. You don't want to scowl at your kids. Notice your facial expression. Don't be mean. Be nice. And I know it can be hard, but you gotta check yourself. Don't let yourself go there. We put so much of the behavioral issues on our children, and our children might have behavioral issues, but look at your own behavior and your behavioral issues and how you treat your children, and then you'll be able to see that your children are just reflections of your chaos. If I can tell you that. If you don't take that offensively. But, somebody needs to tell you your children are reflections of you. I definitely can help you become a more peaceful being so that your children feel more calm and happy being around you, and there doesn't have to be so much chaos. Okay, so the 9th one is not connect. So not connecting. Disconnecting is never a good idea. Like the whole disciplining is really not a good idea. It's not a good idea to discipline your children. You want your children to find their own sense of, you don't need to discipline your child. So I don't know how to explain this. I want that to sink in though. That you don't need to discipline your child. You need to connect with your children. And if you don't need to ground your children. You don't send them away. You don't have to, I was going to say take away their devices, but I don't even let my son he uses my computer sometimes, and he has an iPhone, but he barely uses it. And teach your kids about, and hopefully the electromagnetic field that comes out of the iPhones and the digital devices. It brings the brainwave frequencies into a higher frequency, a beta brainwave frequency, and so it gets you amped up. So if you see your kids are all amped up and they're on the computer, it's just self-explanatory. So you don't want to take things away as punishment, but you want to limit definitely screen time on all devices, but not just limit it. That's the thing. You want to educate your children. So I give you a little more on that one. You want to educate your children. You don't just want to discipline them. You want to educate them so that they learn. And through that learning, they make more conscious choices. It's not because you told them to do it. They're never going to do things just because you told them to. They always need to understand why. So start by explaining and taking the time with your kids to have really deep and meaningful conversations. It's really fun. They love it. Have fun with it. Talk about all the issues and problems. Just talk, and hug and meditate together. Okay, the last one is resent. Don't resent your children. Don't let yourself be in a place of resentment. Like, if your thinking is negative towards your children, that is not a good thing. Your poor child. You are the most important thing in the world to your child, and look at how you're thinking. So it's very sad. Think well of your children. Don't resent them. It's not their fault. It's yours. Okay, these are the 10 things to never do in parenting. I hope you enjoyed. Namaste. Check out my next video. It's going to be 10 things to do and more and more. Love you.